What is going on, everyone? Welcome to week 6 of the BBR. This time we are taking on Bloodcrawler, coach of the Leuven Larvitars. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm very, very sorry. I really hate when I mispronounce people's team's names. Team's name? Team's name. Why can't I say that? I really hate when I mispronounce people's team names. However, that one's a little bit difficult. So, yeah, sorry about that. However, we are facing Bloodcrawler. Bloodcrawler is not doing too well right now in the league. Bloodcrawler at this point in the league is 1-4, which you would say typically is like a free win, right? Like, I wouldn't say free win, but you typically say it's like, a situation where it's like, they're clearly, at the bottom of the rankings. They don't really care as much as you do. So, you have the upper hand. However, Bloodcrawler came out of nowhere last week and defeated Shaquaza for his first win and Shaquaza's first loss. And we lost to Shaquaza. That's our one loss. And Bloodcrawler beat Shaquaza. So we got to, beat Bloodcrawler because Bloodcrawler is apparently now pulling off all these upsets. And I don't want to be on the, butt end of those upsets. So, got to beat Bloodcrawler. Okay, that's the point. Okay, so let's go into Bloodcrawler's team here. You obviously already see the first mod that I'm bringing, which is going to make this battle infinitely better. However, we have Excadrill, Hydreigon, Megazord Y, Ribombee, Keldeo, Raikou, Meloetta, Frostlass, Gigalith, Arbok, Exeggutor. He did make some free agents before facing me, which is pretty scary. However, that's okay. We'll deal with it. Immediately at matchup, I noticed that a lot of his team is very specially offensive. Outside of Excadrill and Gigalith, he really does not have any physical attackers, which is going to mean that Spadef Mons are going to be crucial this game. On top of that, you sort of look to a type chart here. I don't show this too often, but sometimes I do use a type chart to build. I used to be really over-reliant on it, but not anymore, because there's more to matchups than just a type chart. But if you look at it, there are some types that he really has little to none switch-ins to, in terms of, a really minimal switch-in to dragon types, minimal switch-in to some of his switch-ins to dark types are weak to rock types, etc. So we'll see how we're going to capitalize on those in the actual game. I don't really know why I went over there, but it was just interesting to look at. So we are just going to go into what we are bringing. But yeah, very, very specially offensive team, which is absolutely fine. But between Hydreigon and Megazord Y, he does have some pretty scary breakers that are going to be tough to push through. So like I said, the first mon is Guzzlord in the Assault Vest form. I have only brought lefties Guzzlord so far with Protect, so this is going to be a little bit new. I've also only brought Specials Guzzlord so far. So physical Guzzlord's taking aim here, taking charge, and the reason physical Guzzlord is really good here is because it really breaks things like a Calm Mind Raikou. It breaks things like a Stone Edge is really nice for something like Charizard Y. And on top of that, just knocking off some items is really, really cool. Now, the great thing about having a high HP stat, especially in level 50 leagues that I've noticed in terms of calcs, is you really don't have to invest in that high HP stat. When you pair this with an Assault Vest, the prospect of having 300 HP, which is massive in level 50 format, with approximately a little under 200 special defense is insane. 200 given the Assault Vest is absolutely insane. It's going to chew hits, and I did some calcs earlier. I'm not going to show them because I don't have the calc open, but to put this in perspective, a max special attack Hydreigon Draco Meteor is a chance to not 2-hit KO this thing. Charizard Y's Flamethrowers, Focus Blast, nothing 2-hit KOs. There's no special mon that he has on his team that kills this in a 2-hit KO, with the exception of Ribombee, which has Moonblast, and Keldeo, which has Secret Sword, which goes through defense and not special defense. But other than that, Guzzlord just literally eats hits, fires back absurdly hard with these attacks, all of which, have sort of a coverage purpose on the team. And it works absolutely perfectly. So the next mon I'm going to show is Mega Aerodactyl. Between Edgequake, it basically, once again, just hits his entire team correctly. If you start to look at this type chart, like I said earlier, he does have a good amount of ground weaknesses, but he also has quite a few resists. However, 2 of those resists are weak to rock types, and the other 2 are Well, one is an Executor and one is a Hydreigon. So Hydreigon obviously still gets hit really strong by Stone Edge, and Executor gets hit by a Flying type move, as does Keldeo. So in terms of just all-around coverage, sort of dual stab plus Earthquake does it perfectly. And given speed tiers, given that his fastest mon is Raikou, I believe, I am able to outpace his entire team while running an Adamant set. So that's absolutely perfect, and that is Mega Aerodactyl. Next mon is suggested by Blind Messiah, my favorite person in the world, Sean, who suggested a Normalium Z set in order to beat the Megazord Y. He foresaw a defensive Megazord Y to handle Kartana, somewhat similar to Shay's sort of Drampa that he brought, although obviously a different typing and faster and a completely different mon. But Sean foresaw a sort of a physically defensive Charizard Y, because other than that, he really did not have a great answer to Kartana in terms of switching. So I have the Normalium Z to break something like that. On top of that, Normalium Z is also just like a very, like, with Giga Impact, a very free move in the sense of, like, if I don't want to make a prediction at some point in the game and just want to get a guaranteed KO, going for Z Giga Impact just to claim one guaranteed no matter what play he switches into or makes or whatever, perfectly fine. Other than that, Leaf Blade and X Scissor hits his entire team. X Scissor for things like the Executor, the Hydreigon, the Meloetta, I think that's about it. And then Leaf Blade hits everything else aside from Charizard Y and Arbok. Psycho Cut hits Arbok. I believe Psycho Cut also hits, Charizard Y if need be. And then ZG Impact for, like I said earlier. And then Max Speed because we want to outspeed the Keldeo by 1. The next mon is Nidoqueen. It is a dual stab, Stealth Rock, Protect. Once again, let's take a gander over to the type chart. I'm never going to do this again, but we're already on a trend. So in terms of ground weaknesses, once again, quite a few ground weaknesses, but in terms of dealing with poison types, there's all of his ground resistances are either weak or neutral to a poison type move. I was considering Overprotect, going for some like Ice Beam for Hydreigon, but decided it ultimately wasn't worth it because I foresaw an offensive set like Scarf or Specs a little bit more likely than something with Roost. On top of that, I'm just sort of able to protect with Nidoqueen on the, any special move. The other great thing about Protect is it does do things like stall out sand turns for Excadrill, but obviously with such a specially defensive set, this is also meant to chew things from Zard Y, meant to chew things from Hydreigon, and it's also sort of nice to scout to see if he locks himself into anything as well, which is absolutely fantastic. And with Black Sledge Recovery, Protect is going to be actually really nice on a specially defensive mon like Nidoqueen here. Next mon is Mew. Spadef Mew, very, very similar spread actually to the Nidoqueen, but Spadef with Aura Sphere and Psyshock, his only psychic resists are weak to fighting with the exception of Executor. But you can Calm Mind on that shit, which is absolutely fantastic. So, like I said, because a lot of his mons are specially offensive, Calm Mind with a special defensive spread works really well here. Obviously, you got to be a little bit wary of Excadrill. I don't believe it's a Z user, but I actually have no clue. If it is, you could just worry about it later. But that being said, generally, just the spread sort of beats through his entire team at +1. Aura Sphere starts two-shotting even things like AV Excadrill, Psyshock, two shots, a sort of bulky-ish Raikou. It's also Psyshock is there to sort of beat a Calm Mind Raikou 1v1, so it definitely is a little bit of thought put into it there on that front. Popcorn is the last mon. I needed a defogger because in Mox I realized that Sticky Web Bombay was like literally screwing me up, fucking me up completely. So I needed to put Defog. I originally had HP Rock, but not anymore. Substitute is there to do things like stall out the sand turns if I need, but it's also there just for the sub-leech seed purposes. If I threaten something out like Hydreigon, I can predict that, go for leech seed, sub-spam, and with leftovers it won't be a good time for him. Other than that, I can just spam Moonblast because his really only good switch-in is Zard Y and Excadrill, but those both get leech seeded in a perfect scenario. So that is the team. Sorry that this was a bit rambly and a little bit incoherent, but I am an absolute mess today, just trying to get these recordings out because it's midterms. But that being said, we will get into the game. Okay, welcome to the game against Bloodcrawler. It's pretty much what I expected, except for no Keldeo, which is actually very, very, very good because it means AV Guzzlord goes in even more, which is absolutely fantastic. And he brings the Executor instead, which typically I wouldn't expect, but paired with Sun, I mean, it makes sense. And also Executors are running meme in the league, so I think that it was just sort of an obligation to be brought. So I am going to go right ahead and lead off my Nidoqueen in this game because I sort of realized that, worst case scenario, he leads Hydreigon. And I tend to get these worst case scenarios like wrong most of the time, or like right. Like I'll be like, worst case scenario, he does this, but I'll still lead this, and then he does that worst case scenario. So he did that worst case scenario and led Hydreigon. However, unless he has Earth Power, this doesn't scare me too much. He actually makes a read turn 1 that I go into Whimsicott and goes for Flamethrower. And from this damage, I actually calc that this thing is either max special attack modest and got a extreme high roll, or timid specs and got sort of a medium roll. So I'm going to sort of try and scout for what this thing is by switching out. I think that it is unlikely after getting rocks up that he goes for Flamethrower again unless he is locked into it in some sense. And given that damage roll and also given the fact he went for Flamethrower again, it confirms to me that he is locked in as a spec set. So it's great to have that information immediately right off the bat. Now, because I know he's locked into Flamethrower, I am very easily able to get a Calm Mind off. And with my massive specially defensive spread, even if he goes hard Rabombi here, Bug Buzz is only doing about 37 to 45%. To this Mew, and with Leftovers Recovery, that's nothing. It's actually something that I could literally set up on. I could set up on Bug Buzz going up against this Mew. So, going up against this Rabombi. But this Rabombi actually busts out Toxic, which is absolutely good on his part. Good prep on his part, because I think that if this Rabombi had not had Toxic, I think there's a substantial chance that I could have just won this game. Even though he did have Executor in the back, it's one of those things that I could have literally just set up to +6 on and been absolutely fine. So, Psyshock does guarantee KO this Rabombi at this range, so he does have to sack his Rabombi in exchange for being Toxic, but, it's a pretty worthwhile exchange given had he not Toxic me there, had he not brought Toxic on his Rabombi, I think he could have very well just lost straight up. So that is good for him, but also good for me that I'm up 5-6, 6-5 in my favor. That being said, we do have to switch out against this Hydreigon because the combination of Toxic Poison means that Dark Pulse is going to be doing more damage than I'm going to be recovering, but I am easily able to go into my Hydreigon here. And I know because I'm +1, there's no way in hell he's going to risk any predictions. He's just going to go flat out for the Dark Pulse, and obviously because I'm AV, that does absolutely nothing. Now, he actually makes a really, really crazy play and stays in. Now, he actually explained this play a little bit later in the game, or later after the game, saying he really just realized he had no switch-ins, then decided to sack his Hydreigon, and I predicted him to switch out into something like possibly, Excadrill or something like that, and went for a knockoff. So now all of a sudden I fear the Draco Meteor, and I have to switch out immediately into my Whimsicott. But thankfully, I know I outspeed because I calc this thing as specs, which means I'm able to just right away go for a Moonblast. He has no switch-ins outside of Excadrill, and I could have predicted a Leech Seed, but given the fact that he was willing to sack this earlier to Guzzlord, it makes me think that he's just willing to sack it at this point just as well. So he's going to go into Charizard here, and he is forced to take the 50%. At this point, I don't believe he has any Hazard Clears on his team outside of Excadrill, but, I felt, he would have brought Excadrill in there had he had Rapid Spin, but given the fact that he didn't, I guess not. So he goes into Charizard Y. He's going to Mega Evolve here on my Guzzlord switch, which is pretty obvious, but I also don't really care. Even if he has something like Dragon Pulse, it doesn't two-hit KO me, I don't believe. I don't know if Dragon Pulse 2-hit KOs me from this range. I don't think it does, but he goes for Fire Blast anyway, so it's irrelevant. Yeah, it definitely doesn't. But I can easily go for Stone Edge here, which is absolutely fantastic. I'll be up 6-3. It'll be a fantastic time. Guzzlord's a beast, and it'll show off its beastiness. Yeah, there's no way it was going to 2-hit KO. But I go for Stone Edge, and I miss Stone Edge because I am unlucky, and Guzzlord just didn't bring his glasses today, which it's okay. Guzzlord's still, in my opinion, the best Ultra Beast, but just had a rough day today, which is absolutely fine. We all have those rough days. I've had those rough days. It's okay, Guzzlord. We still love you. So we go into Mega Aerodactyl here, and I'm all right. All right, I missed one Stone Edge. Justice means I can't miss this one, right? Can't miss this Stone Edge, right? There's no way. There's no freaking way. He switches into Excadrill. I actually almost predicted that one for Earthquake, but that would have been a little bit too real. He does get the Mold Breaker off, which actually, given the fact he didn't have Gigalith, I figured he was Mold Breaker Scarf or something like that. So he does go into Excadrill here, and I'm going to get my Stone Edge off. It's going to be absolutely quintessential damage for me to discover this thing spread, but I miss again because Stone Edge is a terrible move, and Freaking Stone Edge. Okay, so we have missed 0 for 2 Stone Edges, which is a little bit frustrating. However, we can just go right away into Kartana. There's no way, given he's Moldbreaker, he was probably Choice Scarf, especially given that he was Specs Hydreigon and not Scarf Hydreigon. There's no way in hell that he's locking himself in Earthquake in front of a Mega Aerodactyl. So Kartana's a very, very easy switch in at this point. And Charizard, is going to go down to 1 HP after switching in here, which is going to be absolutely fine by me because I can just right away go for a Leaf Blade and take this Charizard out on the switch in, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. I'll get my Beast Boost. I'll be ahead, I believe, 5-3 at this point in the game, which would be absolutely fantastic and perfect and dandy, and we are in a very, very nice spot at this point. So I do get my attack boost here. Obviously, Mew is a little bit poisoned, so it's not fantastic, but I realize after he sends Exeggutor in, oh shit, this is Chlorophyll. And this might actually sweep me because rocks are up, I think. Are rocks up? No, rocks aren't up. But, if he has, the right coverage moves, it might be a bad time. But he actually just goes for Ancient Power, and I'm like, okay, I could have stayed in, but whatever. Between leftovers, I think that I should be able to substall the Sun out here, especially given it's a Mega Charizard, so there's no Heat Rock or anything like that. But we are getting dangerous at this point in the game because he's going to realize that I'm going to be doing these sub shenanigans, and he knows that Ancient Power breaks my sub. So I could be in a position where he just spams Ancient Power, starts getting the boosts, and I just lose. So this is extremely risky, but I have no other option because any other choice that I could switch into is just going to die to this Exeggutor. Max Special Attack, Modest. Life Orb, nothing is taking stuff from that. I mean, maybe Kartana, but no, I don't think Kartana takes a Psychic. So, yeah, very, very, very scary at this point, but I do just have to sort of stub. Unfortunately, I was 1 HP away from being able to sub on that turn, so unfortunately, he does have to hit me with an Ancient Power, but at this point, the Sun does fade away, so Whimsicott just barely solves out the Sun for us, and does a perfect job in that regard. I'm able to go into Mega Aerodactyl here and fire off a Aerial Ace. I was a little bit scared that he would go into Excadrill, but even if he did, everything I have on my team still outspeeds Exeggutor, so it really wasn't a huge concern if he switched out and took damage on his Excadrill. It really wasn't a huge deal. So he goes Raikou here, and I'm a little scared of a Scarf Raikou at this point. So I could hypothetically just go for Earthquake here and hope that it all, works out peachy clean. But I feel like going Nidoqueen is a slightly safer play as he goes for the Calm Mind. And I'm like, oh shit, I just made a terrible play because, Jesus, I just made a terrible play. And, oh my god. But I actually stand by switching out because, had you just attacked me there, I think Scarf Excadrill could have, done it. So I think I had no choice. I had to switch there, and Calm Mind was the right play on his part. So it was one of those things where it's like I made the wrong play, but also I stand by the play I made. He busts out the Z move, and I'm like, oh fuck, shit, fuck, I'm screwed. Mostly because I thought this was going to be Psyche MZ, but it actually ends up being Ghost MZ, which is going to do, Nidoqueen will chew that up. I'll be able to go for an Earth Power here. He doesn't have Sugar Berry, which means that, even if he did have Psyche MZ, Aerodactyl just came in next turn and hit Earthquake. So really wasn't a huge deal in the end, and ultimately I am able to go into my Aerodactyl this turn and guarantee the KO with Earthquake. I could have just done it earlier, but the way he brought in Raikou instead of Excadrill made me think Raikou was Shuka or Scarf. So I was like, better not risk it. And I stand by, doing that. I'll lose an extra differential point just for safety's concerns. It very well could have been Shuka or Scarf, so whatever. But ultimately, he does go into Excadrill here. I could try and preserve differential by going into Kartana. But if he makes some sort of wild read or something like that, or just, isn't Scarf, and, goes for, Swords Dance or, a speed-boosting Z-move or some shit, I'm not risking that. I'm just gonna take my 2-0 and be on my way instead of going for a 3-0. I'm not like that. So we are gonna go into Kartana. We obviously, as you saw earlier, chew multiple Iron Heads. So even if he flinches me a couple times, Kartana was gonna be absolutely okay with that. And Kartana is going to Leaf Blade, and because Kartana is a Kartana, it's gonna straight OHKO the Excadrill. So it's because it was a crit. I don't know if that actually crit mattered. Probably did, but obviously Iron Head was gonna do much damage. that is it against Blood. We get a 2-0 win, which is actually the narrowest win we've had this season, which is, pretty good for Blood in the sense that, I've had pretty dominant wins most of the season in terms of differential, and this one is pretty close. So well done to Blood, especially with the Executor Bring. Actually worked out way better than I thought it would. Next week we play A-Drive, and that is going to be a very, very interesting game. I am playing A-Drive during the middle of my midterms, which is going to be a little bit stressful, a little bit interesting. I probably won't be on my A game, which sucks because I really want to be on my A game for A-Drive, but is what it is. Hopefully we can pull away from that one with a win. Now, obviously, I just want to beat A-Drive because, he's a respected battler in the community. He's, I'm really excited just to be featured on his channel just for the sense of the opportunity for other people to see me play. I just think that's a really cool possibility. I won't lie, I'm not the biggest A-Drive. I don't typically watch his content until he started uploading for BBR, but he does actually do some great content, so I'm really excited to have that game with him. And I think it's going to be a really, really fun time. I'm going to try and put my best foot forward, not only because, like I said, it's A-Drive, and I want to sort of put my best foot forward. I want to feature my best battling skills, that I can. But also purely because it does matter for the standings, right? Shay lost, and Dan is right now in our there's a couple other players who are undefeated, but there's 2 in this present moment. But they're in sort of the other pod, right? It's still the top 8 out of the 20, but it's still a round robin between half the tournament. The league was split into 2 sort of sections, and it's not divisions, but it's basically just a round robin. It was split into 10 and 10, and you have a round robin with the other 9. It's a 9-week long season, yada yada. I'm in A-Drive section, and I'm also in Shay's sections. I obviously played them. I'm playing them both. You don't play other people from other sections. That being said, if it turns out 5 people, the 8 best out of the 20 includes 5 from one section and 3 from the other. That's just how playoffs will work. It's a regular seeded bracket, so you can play anyone in playoffs. That being said, I do still sort of want to be the best record of the certain group that I'm in, which includes A-Drive and Shaykwaza. Currently, me, Shaykwaza, and A-Drive all have 1 loss. A-Drive lost to Zombie, who we beat week 2. Shay lost to Bloodcrawler, who we just beat. And I lost to Shay. So we are all currently 5-1 in this present moment, I believe, unless a game has happened after I record this that makes one of them lose a game. Which means that, if I beat A-Drive, I think I'm on track to have an 8-1 record, which would be the best record in our group. There's definitely some possibilities for other people going 9-0, but those are games that are out of my control because I don't play those players. So that is the goal. If we can beat A-Drive, I think we're pretty confident for an 8-1 record. Even if we don't, I think a 6-2 a 7-2 or a 6-3 record is possible. But I want to be on that upper end of the bracket because I really want to do well in this league. So that is going to be it. Sorry for that weird little standings ramble, but I figured it was good to have the picture. But yeah, that is about it. I'm excited for next week, and we'll see how it goes. And I will see you all later.